YouTube, on new Zoom channels starting now. So we had to switch them over. Just so you know, don't save old e-blasts and try to link off of those. Each week, go off of the newest link to services if you're at home. So to Susie and Michael, who successfully got to us online, they knew what to do, but I'm telling you while you're here. So we are on, because of security, we constantly are changing our different channels. So we are going to begin the Shabbat with the singing of Hine Matov, which is on page 10.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Thanks, Susie.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
So this evening, our beautiful yellow roses, aren't they stunning? They are in memory of our congregant Mickey Estefan, of his mother, and her name is Mireya Tomas. And he was very close with her, and he says, every year I want to have yellow roses in honor of her and in memory of her. So thank you, Mickey, for these gorgeous flowers. And many people in the congregation have already come up and said how stunning they are. So I can only imagine the way you speak of your mom. Her soul must have been just as beautiful. This evening, Maria Ayerbe, our Grammy Award-winning sound technician, is in the sound booth. Pat Seymour, who should have some Grammys, but maybe not yet, I guess. He's too good for it, too good, is on piano. And Mark Nedlin is greeting our congregants. Thank you to Officer Hicks, who is here on this weekend's Shabbat of Love. I think that's what they're calling it, Shabbat of the opposite of what actually today is going on in the world. And to our B'nai Mitzvah students, thank you for joining us. We are and Alex Kolichkini, thank you for being on IT. We are going to continue now with the lighting of candles. I received an email actually from Ivan Linares, who reminded me that a year ago tonight was when the Russian-Ukraine, I don't want to even call it a conflict, this unfair situation that's going on began,
yes.
This war. And so we are going to light tonight's Shabbat candles. It was said to me, light them for the Ukrainians. The fact is, plenty of Russians have also lost their life because of a leader who is not serving their needs either. So we will light tonight's candles in memory of all those who've lost their life, which seems for such a senseless war that's going on. And so we will do that on their behalf. Not with that match.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Now that we have welcomed Shabbat, it's time to welcome one another. So I invite you to literally get up and introduce yourselves if you don't know each other, and wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. To Francis and Susie and Michael, who are on Zoom, Shabbat Shalom to each of you and your families, and to those who are on YouTube, who I cannot see your names, but I know you are there. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. To Tina, Shabbat Shalom. It is great to be together.
Where were you?
Thank you, Jonathan. And we come back together for the singing of our Kabbalat Shabbat songs, beginning with Shalom Aleichem. I got to find what page for you.
What did I do here?
Shalom Aleichem can be found in your prayer books, I'm positive. Do you know where, Cantor?
I know it's, yes, I found it. It's on page 24.
So we turn to page 24 in our prayer books for the singing of Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We turn back to page 20.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שהמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד שמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכוון אלוהיך, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נצוחה, סוף מעשה ומחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בא אורך ומאורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
It is our custom to rise and to face the door as we join in verse 9.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצוהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. Page 27. As Mickey and Penn just joined, I wanted to just repeat how stunning and grateful we are for tonight's flowers in memory of your mom, Mickey. They are, I hope, as bright as her soul and spirit was that you have expressed to us, and so thank you for this beautiful gift on our bima. The bottom of page 27. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there's no place on earth without the presence. We've talked about this, I think, for quite a few weeks now, that sometimes it's about our availability to recognize what's holy and what's special around us. And it's not that God is not totally surrounding us at all times, or that there's not the potential for incredible at all times. It's that maybe we're not ready to take it in. Maybe we're not looking that the burning bush isn't consumed. Maybe we're not listening to some of the beautiful things that are happening to us. But just as this reading says, when we become attuned to it, when we become aware, there are opportunities that surround us at all times. We continue now with our beginning of our call to worship. The words of the Baruch Hu are on page 28. I invite you to please rise if you are able.
Lai lai lai, ya la lai lai, ya la la lai 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 lai. Lai lai lai, ya la la lai, ya la la lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai, ya la la lai 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 lai. Ya lai lai lai. Ya lai 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 lai, ya la la lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Lai lai lai, ya la la lai, ya la la lai 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 lai. Lai lai lai, ya la la lai, ya lai 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 lai.
You may be seated as we continue on page 32 with the singing of Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha.
B'divrei
Toratecha
u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'yorech yameinu uvahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla.
Ve'ahavatcha tasir bimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Ohev amo Yisrael.
We continue now with the words of the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. I invite you to please rise if you are able, and we turn in our prayer books on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated if it's your custom, page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Go ahead and put one finger on this page as we turn to page 166. Help me, O God, to find still moments, quiet spaces within to refresh my soul. Cease my questions, my inner debates, and let me meditate on your goodness. Help me, O God, to nurture my courage, recalling moments of strength. Let me remember days of fortitude and the certainty of your regard. Help me, O God, to turn to the light, to feel the warmth of your touch, my own face and fingers outstretched, alive in your sight. As we continue now with the words of Mi Chamocha, I invite you to turn back to page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה. זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש.
So we had Reagan join us for a second, but he logged off. He might be back. And Shabbat Shalom also to Marissa and Francis, who joined us after we first logged on. We are now turning in our prayer books to page 43 at the very top for the singing of Let There Be Love.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. V'ha'amidenu, Shomreinu l'chaim. U'faros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We continue now on page 46. I invite you to please rise if you're able and either face east or the ark or find a place within yourself as we join in the words of the Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh kol atah Rab le'Hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Mechayeh hakol be'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim ve'rofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Bichal mocha bal gevurot, Umidom melach, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom to Elisa Pachenik, Charles, and Wes, who have joined us, and also Ivan Linares. Ivan, I did do the candles in honor of those who lost their lives in the Ukrainian and Russian war, so that was your suggestion and a beautiful one as well. We are going to continue now on page 58. We have so much to be grateful for, and some of it is huge, and some of it doesn't seem huge, but is still huge. And so if you are thinking of any moments of gratitude that you want to share with the congregation, if you're at home, just enter it into the chat, and Alex will share those with us. And if you're in the sanctuary and you want to share something, I would invite you to do so, especially if you don't usually do it. because it feels different when you speak up. It is not something Jews are great at doing. I go often when I'm traveling to gospel churches because I love that there is an availability within a gospel church setting for people to shout out, to be excited, to share. And I think so much of the Reform movement specifically came over from Germany and came here and wanted to look as much like our Christian neighbors as we could. Our synagogues looked like Christians' churches, and the ways in which we held ourselves were that we were Jews in the pews, but Americans out on the street. And I think we have lost some of that ability to just kind of interact in our services. And you know, whether this is your first time, you don't know this, but anyone else, that I don't allow you just to sit there and be passive. Whether you speak up or not, I won't ask you to, but it certainly makes the service a little bit different to be able to have a dialogue in the service. So yes, Lee, please.
Thanks. I was just thinking that it was about 3 years ago that COVID first hit. March of 2020. And I'm so grateful tonight. I was just thinking here to be with everyone, to be able to sit next to friends who we are today, all be together and not be stuck at home. I think we can never forget that and lose our appreciation for that. So life changed, and now it's back, and I appreciate that.
Beautiful. So I have to repeat for those at home, what Lee brought forward was that it was almost 3 years ago when COVID came into our lives. And really, I would say disrupted. It was not just changed it, I think it disrupted, especially our potential to sit next to people that we care about, and that Lee was reminding that we can't forget that because we are together now and getting to sit together. And this afternoon, this was gonna be one of my moments of gratitude, but I sat with one of our bat mitzvah students who taught me, Zoe Toto talking about you, who taught me and reminded me that sometimes our ancient Torah is extremely relevant. And the parsha she's going to be dealing with deals with isolation. Tazria Mitzorah is coming up when it's her bat mitzvah, and talks about how those had to go outside of the community when they were plagued with this rash, Tazra'at. And we were talking about how timely it is, and how sometimes thousands of years ago the Torah talks about something and it's happening in our lives now. And so, absolutely, we're speaking of that today. Thank you, Lee. Yes, Alice. So Alice, thank you, Alice shared that they had 2 friends visiting. I have water under here. Thank you, though, Leah. That they had 2 friends visiting from Seattle, best friends, and that then today they came down, and my brothers were here visiting with my niece, and my parents came down. So it was everybody together and with Ezra. So it was very fun. Yes. Anyone else? Yes, Alex, who's online? Nice. It's been a long time since Reagan did the whole list, so I'm glad that he joined us. Yes, what can I help you with, Miss Haley Newman? Grateful for all of her friends. Love that. Yes, Gabs.
I'm grateful for all my friends and Haley's cats.
I love Haley's cats. That is true. Muffin is really my fave of all of them. Yes. Please share with us.
Hi, my name is Raquel.
Hi, Raquel.
We live nearby, and I'm grateful that my husband moved from New York to be with me finally. So
Fabulous. Welcome. We're so glad.
I'm very happy for that.
Good. It is great to finally meet you. Thank you for being here. And Raquel, we're glad you are here. Yes, Jim. What was the last one? Yes. Fabulous. So Jim is grateful for his staycation last week. We got to meet your sister or re-meet your sister, and for getting back to work and returning back to work and being here. Fabulous. Yes, Bella. Wow. Nice. Remember last week I said strangers are friends you haven't met yet. And although we can't necessarily tell kids that because they have different discernment, that is very cool that you did that. I'm proud of you. You should be proud of you. Very cool. Any other ones online, Alex? I see Riley is joining us on Yvonne's lap. She has a 4th birthday coming up. I definitely know that. And Uma, did you have your hand up? No. Cantor, anything?
Just grateful for life.
Grateful for life, absolutely. Yes, Alex, what do we have?
Elisa says, I'm grateful to be spending time with cousins up north and their children. I haven't since spoken again.
Wow. So Elisa is spending time with cousins up north. Fabulous. So Grandma Morrison just texted in. I'm grateful that this week my grandsons and my great-granddaughter came to visit me. What a blessing. May all temple members be blessed with good health. So we say Shabbat Shalom to that. And I am grateful that my parents are here, that Ezra is here, and that I got to take Ezra to his first Broadway musical. We went to go see Wicked the other night, and it was really a cool thing to share. My parents were very big on us going to Broadway shows growing up, and it became very regular. And so I love that I got to give that to Ezra, and that he was my date that evening. It was very fun. Actually, I saw 2 of our conversion candidates. They sat the row in front of us during the play, so it was fun to see them as well. So we are going to mark these moments as holy. So I already asked you to go to page 58, the bottom in Hebrew, if you'll join me. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ochana el hodot. Amen.
Amen.
We are going to take a few moments of silent meditation, and we will join together on page 60, following that with the singing of Shalom Rav.
Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Grant us peace, give us courage to face another day. Let your words of hope call us to pray. In every time and season, every heart must be open. In our prayers and blessings, that's when love is open. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Grant us peace, give us courage to face another day. Let your words of hope call us to pray. In every time and season, every heart must be open. In our prayers and blessings, that's when love is spoken. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam.
This week's Torah portion is Trumah, and we are in the desert, and God says, let them build me a sanctuary so I can dwell amongst them. And it's one of the Torah portions that I think many fundraisers would use to raise money for a synagogue. I think it's a great one for that. It asks the people of Israel to come and bring all these different supplies to build this Mishkan, this temporary dwelling for God. I think it'll be a great Torah portion when talking about where do we see God? Last year I remember speaking about, do we need a building? Do we need a sanctuary so that we can feel God, see God? Sometimes it's hard for us to believe things are real when we can't see them. I remember we spoke about it last year. But this year it's hitting me a little differently. I was thinking about this Mishkan, which is a tabernacle, if you're thinking of a translation that you've heard from Mishkan. This was carried through the desert, similar to in Robin Hood, maybe it wasn't Robin Hood, where they carry a platform on their arms and there's a big middle area. Was that Robin Hood? No? But, like when you watch Hanna-Barbera and they carry in the people on that, like the Romans. Anyway, this is sort of where God dwelled. It was this big box. You can actually see pictures of it in the Tanakh. If you open up your Tanakh, they have drawings because there are diagrams and there are measurements of exactly what this looked like. I would think, an architect's incredible. I don't know, Alan, what you think, but this parsha is like super architectural. It tells you exactly how to build it, what angles, what materials. And for me, that would throw me off. I would like to imagine. I was one of those kids that when they read books, didn't love having the pictures because I like to imagine it and not be given the pictures. But the Mishkan, it is told to us, this is what it looked like. But this week, and I spoke about it a little bit this morning in my message, it was hitting me differently. I guess I'm much less married to the idea of a building. Not specifically this building, but any concept of a building. We are constantly teaching our kids, at least in modern Judaism, that God doesn't have to be in the Torah, in the Ark, in this building. God's within us, right? I was taught as a young child, God's above us. Almost that mentality of a Moses-looking guy with tevas on and a long white beard, and that's where God dwelled. But I think that if you were to ask any of our kids, especially at TI, where's God? They would understand God's sometimes a feeling. God sometimes is a relationship. God is not necessarily personified as someone on a cloud with tevas on. And I was thinking the same about a synagogue as well. There is something extremely holy about this space, but I would argue it has very little to do with that it houses the Torah, and much more to do that it houses each of us, and how we see the Torah, how we see each other, how we relate to the prayers and the songs and the understanding of our religion. And so this morning I started talking about it on my message, but I haven't stopped thinking about it, and it's taken me a little bit to be able to articulate it now. But as each of the Israelites were told to bring a different thing to the Mishkan, bring gold thread, bring crimson yarn, it goes through each of the colors and each of the items they're supposed to bring to build the Mishkan. I was thinking about who sits in the sanctuary at Temple Israel. Specifically, I thought about this moment earlier this morning and thinking about what do each of us bring to this space. And I was being very tachlis, very clear. What does Mark Lamb bring? What does Mark Nedlin bring? What do I bring? And it was a list that was beautiful for me to create in my head because we are not the same. We aren't. But that isn't a bad thing. And I was thinking how many times, if you look at even your classroom or your carpool or your work group or your friends, if you were to think of what do each of you bring to the group, I would hope you'd find different things for each person that are each equally as important, equally as beautiful, equally as unique, but without one of them there, you feel it, right? I absolutely can feel when someone's not in this sanctuary. And it's not just one person who stands out, it's when someone is missing, right? At Torah study in the mornings, how clear is it when someone is not joining us? So much so that very often, especially at Temple Israel, we reach out and say, are you okay? You are missed, right? I see who's not on the screen tonight, and I know who I'm gonna call tomorrow morning. But it's not because their red thread isn't going to make the sanctuary look, and I obviously am speaking metaphorically, but it's not that their red thread is missing from the decoration, it's that their piece of their neshama is not here in this space. But I also want to call attention to the people that are never here in this space who also add their unique gifts to our congregation. I ran into Candace Ruskin this week when I was getting my hair blown out, right? And Candace had such institutional knowledge that she shared with me about this synagogue. She's not here. This isn't where she says she comes, but she said so many things that made this space even more beautiful to me. And the other people that aren't here, whether it's regular or they don't even come on high holidays, you will never hear me judge how much people come to services. That is not for everyone. But they add to the unique tapestry that is Temple Israel. So when I read this Torah portion this year, I was thinking, you know what, next year I'm not in this sanctuary. I was being very real with myself. What do I bring to the Mishkan that won't be in this space that another rabbi will bring to this space? And I hope to God they do bring something to fill this space with their beauty and their uniqueness. But just as me not being here will feel like an absence of certain things, when you're not here, it feels like an absence of certain things. And I was thinking about a Torah discussion I gave about 2 months ago that said, I started the sermon by saying, think about something that is a criticism of yourself, something you don't like about yourself. And we all were thinking, I didn't ask you to share them. And then I said, now think of something that's good about yourself. And it took people so much longer to think about the things that were good about themselves. And that whole discussion ended up being that we are kind of brought up, not our parents' fault, it's life, it's society. We're kind of brought up to think of our deficits instead of our abundance, of what we're missing, of what we're broken, and not necessarily what we are overflowing with. And so when I got to this Torah portion, I was thinking, there are so many of us, all of us, that add and contribute to this world, this community, this congregation, because we are abundant with something. I'm not going to sit here and go through each of your names, although I could. And I have done sermons before where I call out each person for what they are uniquely adding to this synagogue. But I don't think it's something that's so hard or so unique to a rabbi. I think, really, look around the room right now. I am pretty sure, even if you are new tonight, that you could look at your partner and know exactly what she adds here tonight, that each of us could look at each other and figure out why they are unique to this group and why we need them here. But that doesn't stop at the walls of the sanctuary. I think that in every group we are in, every circle of influence we exist upon, I think in every time of our lives, there are reasons all of us are brought together. And we might not figure it out in that moment, but what an incredible opportunity to put on investigator eyes and try to figure out why we are there. There is something beautiful that all of us were created differently. And there is something beautiful that all of us were created B'Tselem Elohim in God's image. But at no point do I want you to be confused that when we were told we're created in God's image, does that mean that we're all the same or all like God? We were created in God's image. How I understand it is that God is most authentically God's self. And we are challenged to be most authentically ourselves, whatever that means. We're coming upon the holiday of Purim, where pretense plays a very big role. We wear costumes. We hide behind. The whole story, the whole Megillah, I say that in two different ways. The whole Megillah talks about hiding who you truly are and finally outing yourself. This process of outing ourselves, I think, is a lifelong journey. It doesn't have to be about sexuality. It doesn't have to be about gender identity. It's about being authentically ourselves. So I'm going to challenge each one of us this Shabbat to look at yourself and see, where are you a little bit hiding? Where are you a little bit in a costume? Where are you a little bit not showing up in these spaces so that someone could easily identify why you're there in a great way? I want to tell you, I met with someone today who was blatantly honest. And I valued that honesty so much. There are times in our life, and I would say in mine specifically, I'm thinking of multiple times even each day, where it is easier, how do you say this? It causes less challenges to not be as honest as you want to be, right? There's kindness in not being brutally honest, I understand that. But there's also a disservice to yourself and to others when we're not honest about who we are and how we are. If we are constantly trying to please each other, if we're constantly trying to not get into conflict, we're not leading, we're not being our authentic selves, we're being kind of a washed out version, a more likable version. And although I think all of us could come up with times when we ourselves just wanted to be liked, or when we like to be in an environment where there's just no issue that comes up, think about how much that disservices us when we were taught don't talk about politics or religion at the dinner table. Our world would be in such a better place if we learned how to talk about politics and religion at the dinner table. Instead, no, don't ruffle the feathers, right? The same goes, I think, about our identities. There are parts of us that might not mesh well with those we love. There are parts of us that might not feel comfortable to be around. But if that's really us, that's what being created in God's image is actually about, showing up that way. So when I look out in this sanctuary and I think about where we'll be a year from now reading this Torah portion, I'm hopeful that maybe something you think of tonight about why you're specifically here right now, what part of you is supposed to be in this space right now, will come to mind next year. And you'll recognize this synagogue is not the same without you. Whether you're a member or not, Jewish or not, that's not at all what I'm talking about. You're a human being. And you serve a very unique role, not only for this congregation, but for yourself in this world. So I pray this Shabbat something becomes so blatantly obvious within you as to why you're here, as to why you should be celebrated, as to why when you truly are yourself, it is a beautiful, unique gift from God. Shabbat Shalom.
These are the gifts that we bring, that we may build a holy place. This is the spirit that we bring, that we may build a holy place. We will bring all the goodness that comes from our hearts, and the Spirit of God will dwell within. These are the colors of our dreams we bring to make a holy place. This is the weaving of our lives we bring to make a holy place. We will bring all the goodness that comes from our hearts, and the Spirit of love will dwell within. These are the prayers that we bring, that we may make a holy place. These are the visions that we seek, that we may build this holy place. Let our promise forever be strong. Let our souls rise together in song, that the Spirit of God and the Spirit of love, Shekhinah, will dwell within.
We return now in our prayer books to page 253 as we join in the singing of Misha Berach, our prayer for those who are in need of healing. If you are at home and you want to share someone's name in the chat, I invite you to do so, or to say it out loud where you are or in your heart. And if there's any names in the room that you want to share for healing, I ask you to do as my hand passes where you are. Cantor? Pat? Guys? Rennick? Yeah, Michael Todd. Ezra? No, Christine? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Officer Hicks, Franny? Thank you. Alan, Rebecca? No, John? Jeannie? Chippy? Jim? Thank you, Will. Thank you, Jackie. Robin? Mom, Dad? Alex? So for all of those names, again, we join page 253 for the singing of Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Hu Yivarech Virapeh et Hachalim
This evening and tomorrow has been nationally tagged the Day of Hate, and you can read about it elsewhere. I don't want to spread that on the bema, but I do want to thank Officer Hicks and his crew for making sure that they are being vigilant and taking care to make sure that while we are in here, that we can let go while they are keeping us safe. So thank you, Officer Hicks, and please tell your colleague outside. I do want to let the congregation know that the Security Council under Lee's guidance and Dr. Ian Reese's guidance has been briefed, and that we have patrol going around the congregation for the next 36, 48 hours. We can never stop hate, and hate is not new, but the celebration of hate is something that has been allowed and seems permissible in the world that we live in. And yet this Shabbat has been coined the Shabbat of peace to sort of combat this understanding of Day of Hate. So as we think of those who are in need of healing, I also want to add those who are in need of a cleansing of their mental health, to think that to be divisive and to be hated is something, to share hate is something that should be celebrated. I pray that all of us understand the importance where we are far more alike than different, and that those who choose to hate have some sort of shift in their thinking, where they are reminded how beautifully unique our differences and our likenesses are. And let us say amen. Amen. I invite the congregation to please rise as we join together in Aleinu L'Shabeach on page 282.
Aleinu L'Shabeach Ladon Hakol Latet Gedula Le'oseh Breshit Shelo Asanu Kigoyeh Ha'aratzot Velo Samanu Kimishpachot Adama Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam V'anachnu Korim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shehu Noter Shamayim Meyoser Haaretz Umoshav Yikaro Bashamayim Mima'al Ushchinatu Zo Begovhei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Ein Od Emet Malkeinu Efes Zulato Kakatuv Betorah וידעת היום, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, מעל הארץ, מעל הארץ, מתחת אין עוד, אין עוד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Page 292. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of our hearts. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear, but if we dwell too long on our loss, we embitter our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction, he learned the law of God, and in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silent in their presence and when a word will assure them of our love and our concern. Thus, even when they are gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live as in their higher moments they themselves wished to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. If you are thinking of someone in your life who is no longer with us and you wish to say Kaddish for them and you are at home, I invite you to enter their name into chat. And in a moment, I'll ask for those names in our congregation after I read our list. In the second of the 4 weeks of Shloshim, we are thinking of Karen Koppel Kaunitz. Koppel Kaunitz. And observing Yartzeit, the yearly anniversary of their passing, we remember the following: Nathan Avrak, Alvin Baxt, Beatrice Basker Belmont, Nathan Bernstein, Edward Brandstatter, Molly T. Brown, Selma Buckman, Harold Buckman, Isidore Cohen, Louis J. Dessauer, Shepard Faber, Lou Friedman, John David Freed, Sidney J. Gellis, Morris Gettleman, Mac Goldberg, Samuel Goldman, Albert Goodman, Charles M. Greenberg, Sadie L. Kahn, Abraham Kaplan, Rebecca Kaplan, Fanny Kimmelman, May Klein, Sylvia Leaner, Daniel Levine, Raymond B. Levine, Lucille Lichtenstetter, Alexander Lyon, Ava Furman Lubau, Edward G. Marshall, Lee G. Mayer, Esther Newman, Myrtle Pereira, Maurice Rappaport, Max Raskin, Pearl Roth, Nathan Roth, Morris S. Schiff, Dora Schoenthal, Samuel O. Schwartz, Lena Seidenberg, David L. Slan, Solomon Smolowitz, Joseph Teitelbaum, Martha Todd, Lester Walder, O'Shea Waxenberg, Harry Wall, Alfred Wall, Louis Wolfson, and Irving L. Wolf. If I mispronounced your loved one's name, I'm sorry. I'll ask you to please say it out loud again, and any other names you'd like to add to this list. Thank you. Will? Sorry, Will? Thank you. Alice? Thank you. So for all those names said out loud and in our heart and in the chat, I invite you to please rise as a congregation as we turn to page 294 and join together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach cherutei v'amlich malchutei, B'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach leolam olmeo maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal. Shemei dekudesha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'ami ran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zechronam livracha, may their memories forever be a blessing and a lesson for how we can live our lives, and let us say amen.
Amen.
I invite the congregation to please join together in the middle of the room so we can share motzi and kiddush together. To Alex and to Pat and Maria, Officer Hicks, to Lior, thank you. To our custodial team, Jepi and Jeannie, merci beaucoup. To Cantor Nelson, thank you.
Thank you.
And to all of you, we join together in these blessings. Zoe, hold it. Zoe, will you hold it? Just raise it up. You're cool. Okay, and your mom gets the challah. There you go. Great job, guys. Vayer vayivoker yom hashishi, vayachulu hashamayim ve'aretz, vayachot tzivam, vayachol Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mechol melachto asher asa, vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i, v'yikadesh oto kivo Shabbat mechol melachto, asher bara Elohim la'asot savri.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, kivanu Tanu kidashta mikol ha'arim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai. Now you can bring it down. Mekadesh HaShabbat, 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 Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. You don't have to drink it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. You can drink it. It's just grape juice. Motzi lachem min haaretz. Yes, we already did the.
We join together in the singing of Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom.
As we pass the challah. Shabbat Shalom.
Oseh Shalom.
But we guys take it.
Romav,
have to walk it around.
Oseh Shalom, Bin Romav, Hu Yaseh, send it this way. Hu Yaseh, Hu Yaseh, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Hu Yaseh,
Hu Yaseh, Hu Yaseh says shalom.
I know. Everybody kept their mouth shut.
Aleinu. 1, 2, 3, 4. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down.
May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, says shalom. In Roma. Oh, says shalom. In Roma. Who ya say, shalom. Who ya say, shalom. Who ya say, shalom. Alleluia. 1, 2, 3, 4. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, everyone.